hasn't given me the same message.
Oh, Sean is recording the call. Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean McHale, your casting producer here at Live to Give, and you are here for our first Live to Give review, our postseason, during season, whatever you want to call it, interviews of the most recent voted off contestant. This week we do have an awesome contestant, but before we get to them, I do want to introduce you to the guy who put this all together, who made so this event was possible, puts his heart and soul into it, Brandon Nelson. Brandon, would you like to take it away a little bit?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. As some of you, well, if you watched the episodes, you would know my name is Brandon Nelson. I'm the host and founder of Live to Give, and we're just here today to chat with Hannah about kind of her experience on Live to Give, her journey through casting, her charity, all that stuff. Get the lowdown, her little final words, looking back on the event. So me and Sean are here today to just kind of host this interview, and I'm super excited to get some behind-the-scenes scoop that Hannah wasn't able to give us on the show for sure, Sean.
Cool. So, as of this moment, we do have Hannah, as you see on the call. Hannah, if you'd like to take it away, give us a little bit of background. What did you want us to know that maybe didn't get to talk about on the show? I mean, we only got a couple episodes of you, so who is Hannah?
Well, first, Hannah, how did you find Live to Give? First of all, let's start there. How did you actually find our event beforehand?
Sure. So thanks for having me on, you guys. Hello, everyone. I found Live to Give through a good friend of mine, actually a coworker who was aware of the event that had gone on. And so word travels quickly through friends. He knew McPhail from the year before. And my friend from work, Michael, shout out to Michael here, he knew that I would like constantly talk about Survivor in the office, like every single week. We were like closet Survivor friends at the office. But he told me about the application like literally like the day before it was due. And so I sent my application like the day it was due. You know, I like filled it out super fast and was super pumped about it.
That's amazing. First off, I am really fascinated by your job. I know it's like not directly game related right now. Can you tell everyone what you do for a living? Like where you work? It's just a unique thing about Minnesota where we're at.
Sure. Well, so when I was actually casting, I was working in a job that I worked at for about 7 years. I was product development lead for a brand called Russell and Hazel. It's like high-end office supplies, and I like design backpacks and technology devices and everything from like tech goods down to like wrapping paper for Christmas, you know. And so I made a lot of surface design, but in May, I actually changed jobs and now I'm the creative director at the Minnesota Orchestra, which means I manage the design team there. So on video, photography, marketing materials. Not like involved in like what programming happens. That's for the team. I like do not have giftings in music. So yes, that's like what I do these days.
Oh my goodness. The reason I ask is because something that stood out to you from me on the casting side is you are such a unique creative person. And when I heard you were in this role, and I'm not going to lie, I ran into you downtown Minneapolis before, since the event even, you work a couple blocks from me.
Yeah.
I just thought it matched who we thought you were and your personality so much. But more than that, you have been so much more than what we casted you into. And that's something I hope people see through this.
Into do I
I
get
know.
questions? I want to know
We thought you were definitely a unique, quirky person and a huge Survivor fan.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you had me, Hannah, at your hair collection, and I've been fascinated since.
Oh, the hair collection's coming up.
Because it came up in like my intro video, my new coworkers are also very fascinated with it because it's not like something I lead with necessarily. And so just so everyone knows, I would love to make a huge braided wall hanging quilt out of lots of hair. That's my current project. So if you are willing to donate a ponytail, message me on Facebook and I'll let you know where to send it.
I'm crying.
I mean, I'm all out of luck here, but I'll talk to some people.
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. So we've talked a little bit about casting process. We've talked about you. Let's hear it. Your first thoughts. Okay, this is kind of a fun fact. Before the game starts, you are put into kind of a little like area. We take your photos. You're not really allowed to speak until we get you down to our, what would you call it,
Social,
Brandon?
the
Social.
social area.
Social. Social. And during this social, you're not split into tribes or anything. It's not on camera, and you're not allowed to have game talk. Tell us a little bit about what you were talking about, who caught your eye during that social, what was going on for you in that time.
Yeah, it's like the first day of school. I'm sure we all like kind of felt that way. You know, you have like the perceived idea of um what you've seen about this person online, you know, through like their casting promotion, things like that. And then you like meet them in person. And what was actually really fun is one of the people I felt like I would connect with was Elder. And that was like an immediate connection for me on at the social. I was like really bummed that I didn't ever get to play with him. Um, but one of the like fun things, and you never like know what other people's ideas are, but like well after it was over and the whole show was done, Elder reached out to me and was like, "You were my number one pick to play with, you know." And so you like dream about like what could have been a little bit. So I really felt like
Yeah.
Elder was someone I could have like played well with without even like needing to like communicate about it a ton.
Mhm.
Sorry, my cat's now coming on screen here.
Oh, you're fine. Can I just verify something, Brandon? Was it getting a little blurry for you throughout that time too, or is that just my perfect? I just want to verify. Mine just had some feedback, but nothing that won't be fixable. I'll just verify on the video, but it was overall hearable. So
Mhm.
cool.
Okay.
So you talked, Elder stood out to you.
Elder for sure.
That kind of leads us.
Oh,
Yeah, who else stood out to
Go,
you at
go.
that social?
Serena was someone that I felt like, oh, I can work with her. I need to get to know her better. She felt a little slow to open up, which I think was probably strategic on her part. Um, Derek was someone that I could have seen myself playing with. I actually felt like I connected way more with the guys. Shane was someone I think I could have played well with. Um, and so as soon as we heard Men Against Women, I was like, oh my gosh, this is bad news for me
Yeah,
immediately.
what was your reaction when obviously the social's done? First of all, you experiencing like anxiety when I'm like, come on in, or what was that? Well, my first question is, what was that initial feeling when I'm like, come on in, guys, and you guys coming in some big long line of white shirts?
Yeah.
What were you
Oh my
feeling?
God, I felt like I was in a dream. I was like loving it. You know, it was like I've spent like every year of my life since I've been 10 years old wanting to have an experience like this. And so it just felt like this. I had like zero anxiety in that first like moment. I was just like, this is like a high of my summer and like I can't wait for this to start, you know?
That's awesome. So, so as you just said, it does start. We line you up. Brandon brought the twist forward. You're split into clashes, starting with sexes. What is your initial, like he said, what's your initial reaction? You even brought up Elder was someone who stood out to you. What do you do?
Oh, I mean, as soon as I heard it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to make connections quick or reevaluate how I want to play this game because a number of people that I wanted to play with, I don't even have access to. Um, and you know, so much like time goes so fast when I think about it now of like what that even day was like in terms of like actual time. I was there less than, I don't know, 10, like 8 hours. I don't even know. And so you're kind of like, we get thrown into our first challenge right away. And it's interesting thinking about like who is taking the lead and how we're going to um, line people up for this trivia challenge. You know, you're like observing how people interact, which I like had some immediate responses to of like, oh, this is someone I don't want to work with. This is someone I do want to work with. Um, and I think even through that process, like my initial take was that Maggie and Serena were probably people I wanted to work with. And then based off of things that happened at camp, as soon as we got back after the first challenge, you have to adjust with those things. So
So you guys have time at camp. Tell us about that. You guys aren't even there 5 minutes, and chaos ensues when Steph unfolds the tarp and finds the idol. Explain what was going through your mind. I mean, we saw a confessional from you about it, but explain like the in moment. Was it cringy? Was it like crickets? Like what was that experience?
well, okay, like immediately it was really awkward, which I think all of us would agree with, because like Steph's put in a horrible position that like probably none of us would want to be in, you know? But it also was like really awkward that like she didn't say a single thing and everyone's just standing there looking at her, you know? So it was like probably the most awkward point of that like, we're all new to the challenge. I think that was after the challenge, wasn't it? And so, and it's also that like immediately another person has immunity, on the tribe. And I know that I'm someone who like out of the few numbers could have problems here. So
Yeah, so that's actually something I wanted to bring up. Did There were a lot of advantages early on for fundraisers. What was your thought process when you saw how many girls were actually available to be voted for?
And what
yeah.
did you think of the advantages as well?
Well, okay. So I forget if it was actually shown in the first episode how it played out because I think we went to camp with the top three advantages handed out, and then you brought us back.
Yep.
So there was guys, and you brought us back out additional advantages out. So there was already some lines drawn prior to like a number of other people getting safe, which I think was actually like a super hard part. Had I realized that I was going to be one of now, was it four people
Four.
that could
Yep.
that could be voted out? I don't think I would have like made such a hard stance against Sarah and Nicole so early. Like I felt like there was kind of this divide and like I felt like I was going to have a little bit more room to play early on, which is maybe why I like started playing quickly. And then I'm like, oh gosh, like I need to be a number at this point, but now I don't even have a choice to be a number, like because I'd feel terrible if I like didn't try to play pretty hard and got voted out.
Well, I could say this much, and I'm sure Brandon can quote me on that. The game masters purposely gave the advantages a couple hours
Oh,
after the initial ones.
yes, of course you did. I mean, that alone was its own like major twist to those of us in certain positions. And I
Mhm.
think like maybe, I don't know, like part of my perception, and I don't know if this is what it was, but it like with so many people safe, it kind of felt like camp wasn't engaging with gameplay as much as maybe I was hoping because so many people felt safe. And so if you were initiating conversations with people, it was super visible and very obvious. And I'm like, why did Ellie bring the water jug close to camp? Like we need something to walk away to. And then she like moved it into the center of camp. So it's like, um, yeah, it was a really tough scenario, and with how like fast time is moving, I think like for sure that was like a major shock to me coming into this that I think was difficult for me to adjust to is just like you don't have days to get to know someone and build a relationship in this game. You have like 2 minutes when you're standing outside of the porta potty to use to like make a relationship. You know? So
But and the interesting thing about the advantages before the game started, we debated going back and forth. Do we do it all at once? But then we were like, I think the doing all the advantages at once will just create an advantage versus not advantage alliance. We're like, let's give it a few hours and maybe the people that don't get them can get in. Well, then the ironic thing is that the people that didn't get them ended up being on the bottom before the advantages were given out anyway, it seemed like on your tribe.
yeah, well, and watching episode one was actually like kind of a shock to me to hear that my name was thrown out in that first one, the first vote. I think, I don't know if it was because people saw me initiating conversations quite quickly. I think, like I mean, in my confessional, I was talking about if Sarah wasn't safe, I'd want to go after Sarah, and Sarah was saying pretty much the same thing against me. And so I think you kind of like just identify some natural like competition between certain people.
Mhm.
And and I think like I was one of the first people that walked up to Steph after she found her idol. And so I felt like that was a relationship that I couldn't abandon and I had like an initial connection with that I wanted to hold on to. And so, um, you're navigating the numbers the whole time, and especially when it came to that second round with our vote, I knew it was gonna like I knew I was in major trouble that round. And so it was a lot of just trying to like, do we have the numbers? I think like maybe my biggest mistake, well, clearly my biggest mistake was not aligning with people who had long-term immunity and playing as safer on their side until the tribe like swapped.
So Hannah, you guys lose your first. I mean, not lose your first challenge. The first challenge is done. The guys win the reward. They slaughter you all.
Yes.
You guys get back to camp. You get your advantages, and you realize there's 4 people available: you, Jenny, Ellie, and Steph. Steph has an idol. So what's your thought before tribal, that first tribal council when Ellie goes? What's your thought before that tribal, and kind of how did you get people to wrangle against Ellie versus you? Because you were the other option to go that round. Jenny, whose name wasn't thrown out at that time, but
Yeah, I don't believe she was thrown out at all.
No,
no.
I don't think she was thrown out at all. And I think, sorry, I'm adjusting here. I honestly felt like everyone I was talking to was talking about Ellie, and so it felt like an obvious kind of vote to me. And so I like did not realize my name was traveling around at all. I felt I remember in like one of my confessionals, and this is how fast things change. I was like, oh, like Nicole is someone I would want to work with. And then I was like, oh, as it became more clear that Nicole and Sarah were pretty aligned early on. I think I felt like, okay, I can't, that's not the route I need to take. So I was trying to rally other options there.
Hmm.
Kim,
What was Ellie doing? Sorry to interrupt. I'm trying to go back to the whole pre-vote thing. What was Ellie doing at the beginning? Obviously, we saw the awkward. There were so many awkward scenes in that first episode. We saw the awkward
So many.
water jug Kim confrontation thing. But what else was Ellie doing beside that? Was she doing anything else, or was that the real reason she got voted out that first round?
the real reason being, oh, I don't think it was related to the water jug at all. I mean, Kim, I think it was Kim who started talking about like, oh, did she get an idol at the water jug? And I think that like stirred up a little bit of like, well, for sure we should vote that direction and try to flush something out. I didn't really think that there was an idol going on in that case. I think most of what it is like going back to that social, it is kind of important. And not a lot of girls felt like they had an immediate connection with Ellie or that there was like a proactive effort to kind of like get to know each person. And so it just felt like, oh, this is, I mean, that happens so fast, and just like kind of socially, in terms of how the team was interacting as a whole at camp, Ellie felt a little bit maybe more on the outside of that. But again, I mean, she's clearly like a super great person and was well received into other tribes she went on to. And so it's just like initial, like, we have a vote coming up. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean that's so funny you mentioned that because the second that everything swapped, we on production were like, Ellie's going to a literal tribe of all guys, and then we see last episode that she's literally saying she's gonna flirt with them to get them, you know. um, but no, so you guys see the swap gender right away. I mean, we see another little twist thrown at you again. What's your thought? You survived your first tribal, now you're getting Bobby. Initial thought when you see Bobby and Ellie coming back.
Well, when they were swapping, I think I was like excited to get someone new because it felt like a possible number that we could use for people who didn't have this like long-term immunity. It kind of felt like they were driving things at camp. Um, and so I was immediately interested in trying to get Bobby on board with Maggie, Steph. I was hoping Serena was still going to vote with us. But like, if I was in Serena's position, like when she had immunity that round and wanted to align herself more long term, like I totally see why she voted the way she did. Um, Knowing that she was like kind of between Sarah's, alliance building and what was going on with our numbers. And then Kim was someone I felt actually really solid with early on. And then so Maggie, Serena, and I went to use the bathroom after that second challenge, and we were like, "We're in trouble. We've got to talk to someone." We're like, "Kim's getting shifty," and and everyone's like, "Yeah, Kim's like, we can't tell what she's doing." And so we were. She was someone that I was like, the further the time went on, and we were getting kind of like anxious about things. I was like, "Oh, like Kim was the one I was most worried about from like the people I'd been talking to." Bobby was someone I think I like connected with talking to. He probably felt like he could probably tell we needed numbers on our side and also recognize like people over there have long-term immunity. And I think what like I just struggle with like after like thinking about this for so long is I wish I would have gone in like a little bit softer and willing to work with people with long-term immunity. And it was like mistake. So yeah.
So when Bobby got to your tribe, who got to him first? Do you remember? I don't know if the footage even showed it. I mean, it showed a really emotional story about his charity and kind of, being adaptable. But do you know who got to talk to him first? Do you remember that at all?
I don't think I know because, like I said, I think it was when Serena, Maggie, and I stayed to use the bathroom really quick on our way back, which was like the also
Those
terrible
bathroom
move,
breaks.
the damn bathroom, right? And so, if I'm remembering the order correctly, but I do know it felt like there was like a large group standing there when we got back. It didn't feel like there were like people broken off quite yet talking because then it started turning
Oh
into
yeah,
like
we
what.
saw that in Maggie's confessional, and she's like, "I needed to get away. I'm tired of being."
Yeah,
So
that was like kind of common camp that like people, and that's what I mean by like so much safety kind of ensued this feeling of like maybe not having to play as odds because there was just like a mass of people that were safe. Um,
And I think what Sean and I have tested from watching, it was weird because, and maybe you can shed light on this because obviously I wasn't there at the camp, but it was like, it seemed like before each challenge and after each challenge, you guys would be in that circle. And then it would be like, you knew tribe was coming and then all of a sudden scatter. Like Serena's running off, you're running off to Bobby. I mean, we saw just like this circle of chaotic conversations happening.
it got quite chaotic because it kind of started feeling like, okay, one group's talking, then another group's talking, and you don't want to like you want to be the last person to talk to someone so they don't have a chance to go back to the other group, And so it was this like chaos of like groups going, pulling people back and forth. And I mean, I was happy to see that happen. I didn't want to build the camp. I didn't want to put the tarp up, but like collectively, everyone was like, let's put this tarp up that we might sleep under. So, it's balancing like doing what the tribe wants to do and being part of that, but also like, you're like, I might have a half an hour, I might have 20 minutes. We've got to like make some plans if we're headed to tribal council. So, yeah.
And going into that tribal, Hannah, who did you think that your numbers were? Because we saw in the voting confessionals from Maggie and you, you're like, we hope we're on the right side. So who going into that tribal did you think were your like 6 or 5 or whatever?
The that I was anticipating voting with was, and I did not feel 100% about everyone, but who I was hoping was going to vote this way was me, Steph, Serena, Maggie, and Kim and Bobby. Bobby was like our kind of like, we knew he was in between things. But if we could at least get 5 and maybe Bobby, then we could.
So there was that, talking about that, you knew that there was a split in the tribe. I want to kind of rewind before we jump into the tribal to the challenge because you had that puzzle at the end, or at that end of the challenge.
No, literally our same
And
reaction, Hannah. Did you see our hands go up at the same time?
It was so interesting to watch the version that ended up in.
yeah, give us a little background about this puzzle right now.
Okay, even backing up to when we were strategizing who was going to do what. So early at camp, all the women had like made like this chart on the chart of who had strengths and what areas, like physical strength to like endurance to like balance to like strategy or like puzzles or like trivia type thing. And I like strongly feel like strengths is like puzzles, visual spatial, like in my for what I do. But I knew that going up against the guys pick was going to be on that puzzle, and he like that's what he does for a living. So like my stomach kind of dropped when I knew it was the last thing on this challenge. And when we were strategizing, like no one else was going for the puzzle. And I said to the group, I like puzzles, which was the episode. Wasn't in the episode was me saying, like, I need way more time than that puzzle. I'm gonna like get it done in a minute. Um, and so we were pretty neck and neck all the way through that puzzle. Girls were a little bit behind. Got to the ball, but Steph like okay. I mean, I had like you have no concept of time here. My parents were there watching. When I talked to them after, they were like, Nick had like 7 minutes on the puzzle before you did, which I don't know if that was true, but I remember thinking like I haven't solved it yet. And part of me was like worried that if Nick and I were head to head on the puzzle and we for a long time, it would might be seen as like Hannah can't do this puzzle. So you want to vote me out for that reason.
Perfect.
I want to add one more question that I mean, I'm assuming you probably would have got to it, Sean, but I've been dying to know this answer. I've never gotten this answer. Hannah, before Tribal, why did the girls not band against Bobby? I never understood that. It was such an easy, simple vote at that time. Was the girl power not like really happening on this season at this point in the
I
game?
don't think girl power was happening on my tribe. I mean, I I think we knew immediately when we got back to camp the two sides that were kind of like talking in terms of like, how are we voting were both pulling for him. And there wasn't this collective thought of like, hey guys around the table, let's just vote out Bobby, which also is like a major mistake on my part of just like taking that idea and you're just staying in, but you get so sucked into like the conversations you're having and trying to manage them and like checking on what's going on, who's talking to each other, that it just like became my goal. Like I can't pitch that idea if I'm also trying to get him to be one of the members.
Yeah. So I'm just going to wrap up quickly. Hannah, I have to go. I had such a good time talking to you. Sean will take good care of you for the rest of this interview. I just wanted to say before you get off, thank you so much for applying. You, as a one super fan to another, I'm super grateful for this experience. I teared up at your vote off confessional. I feel like I vibe with you so much on that level, and your charity also, Arrive Ministries, is incredible. So thank you for applying. I'm so happy we casted you, and I hope to God we stay in touch. So I am going to, with that, exit the interview, and I thank you guys so much for letting me be a part of this, okay?
Okay, so now that Brandon, our host, is gone, I do want to run into, before we move on to a little bit more conversation about the game, I do want to talk about our unofficial official sponsor. Do you know anything about this?
Your unofficial official sponsor. Why am I not thinking of what that is?
Well, it might have been a little early in the game, but we are brought to you by Spicy Sweet Chili Doritos
And
the original Top the Tater from Mid-America Farms. I would like us to all say that it's great. You'll learn more about that later in the season.
Yes, that was prior to or after my time.
I know, I was going to say, well, you never got the opportunity to play with who has brought the Top the Tater and Dorito legend to unfold. That's something you're all going to have to stay tuned for going
Yes,
forward.
I'm excited for the audience to experience this.
It is a lot. I'm just going to say that right now. So, Hannah, you got to talk a little bit about the challenge. You got to talk about your going into that tribal. Maybe I missed it. Did you know what moment did you realize it was your name going?
I mean, I knew when I got back to camp, after that challenge that like there was going to be trouble because I felt like there were some like clear partnerships and then some floaters in the middle that were like, I mean, this is still pretty early into the game. We've only had one vote that like was mostly to flush an idol, and then Ellie was voted out. And so the more I saw like groups breaking off, and I was taught like I didn't really want to work with Sarah, but I went to talk to her obviously, and that response she gave me was like, "Oh, I know I'm it," because she started talking about Kim, which Kim was not even up for a vote, and I'm like,
I was gonna say what
to tell me like because it's my name, and then like. I was doing a confessional and I was like, I can't be away from this group very long. I need to get back in there, And so I knew like pretty quickly that like I could be like one of the major targets. I also like I remember just this like really brief moment that I grabbed with Maggie, and I was like, Maggie, I know it's me or Jenny, and she gave me this like sweet look of like, Yep, that's true. Even though I knew like I was most confident that she was going to vote with me, and like hoping the same thing, you know. But yeah, it's. I think I like had a pretty good sense, and maybe yeah, I it didn't occur to me at the time, which maybe it should have, to like approach Sarah in a different way. But I felt like she was so struck on wanting to get me out that that wasn't going to change at that point.
Yeah. That, I mean, I'm just going to say this right now. My heart broke seeing such a big super fan go so soon. We do cast people from all walks of life
Yeah.
for this game, different levels, and you were honestly one of the biggest super fans we had going into it. I think that a lot of us were moved by your exit.
Oh,
Even being there was more so, but even on camera, you were so gracious, but you could tell you would put your heart and soul not only into the game, but it meant something to you more than that.
gonna make me
Can,
cry right now.
can you talking about that? Live to Give is so unique compared to so many other games like this. You could go to Kentucky and play in one of these games. You could go, you could go to Survivor Brooklyn, Maryland. You hear these names, but Live to Give does have the charity aspect of it that people do bring into the game. Could you just tell us a little bit about your charity
Yeah.
and what it means to you and getting this experience did for them?
Yeah, so Arrive is a group that the church I go to started working with a couple years ago. And I think I've always had this, which for those who don't know, Arrive is a nonprofit that works with newly arrived refugees in Minnesota. And it pairs either a family or a group of people who are arriving here for the first time with a group of individuals who live here locally that like are in relative proximity to them to help walk through their first year of life in America. And so that's everything from like helping them with legal services to like English training to setting up healthcare. We're talking through how you do your like taxes, like really like tactical like skill sets that you just kind of need that are like super foreign to anyone who doesn't work here. I mean, or like live in the United States. I think about like healthcare is hard for me to navigate, but like if you don't speak the language or
Seriously.
like understand the systems, like it's really like an improbable thing to do. All the way down to like helping provide community and like eating with these people and taking them around town. And so Arrive has just been this really like beautiful experience for me of like there's this tone in the country of like not welcoming people, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
like a political sense or just like someone that's different than me. I don't want to know who they are. And I just think it's like super important to be telling the story of like we're not that like unlike each other here and we want to welcome people. And that's part of the reasons that I've worked with Arrive. And I think it's like the best thing you can do is like growing your picture of like what being a neighbor can look like to someone. Um, and like something that's really cool. So I've been working with a Congolese family this last year,
Yeah.
is like seeing that transition of going from like, helping them with how to do public transportation to actually like growing into being friends with these people. And so I think that's like one of the best things about this nonprofit and what they do. So yeah, and like to add to that, like in my exit interview, part of why I think I got so emotional is it's like so many people who know me well know like why that's important to me and also this like deep-seated love for the game and the fact that I like got to do this together and so many people like supported me. So it was this like, I mean, I said it right at the beginning of my exit interview. It felt like really embarrassing and humbling to like be the first person out, and like that's been really hard for me personally since the
I
game.
will say this, the game was laid out. I saw the game ahead of time, which I'm going to talk about something on this napkin here in a few minutes, but I saw the game layout, ahead of time. I get a little sneak peek on the action, and I knew that it was something for those super fans like ourselves that it's going to be hard to navigate. That's kind of what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And no matter what, no one can say you didn't play your heart out. No one can say that. And it showed. And Arrive Ministries knows that. You know that. We all know that. And it really was, I mean, it was beautiful. Like, and I don't want you to feel down about being
Oh,
first
no.
boot at
I
all.
I don't feel, I mean, I did feel down. Trust me, I didn't sleep for 4 days after that getting voted out. Like I couldn't sleep. I like cried a ton, whatever. But I like, you talk about like the experience of being on this, like changes people, and you don't think that like, oh, this my like 8 hours out there would like kind of transform how I think. But I have been someone in life that like tends to excel at things that I try. And this, like, I did not excel at in the way that I wanted or expected of myself. And so this was actually like really transformative for me to be thinking about like my expectations for myself and how I frame like interactions with people. And so yeah, it's totally weird. Like 8 hours can do it to you, but it does. So yeah.
Yeah, like I said, well, actually, let's just do this right now. So I'll tell you a little something as she sips her La Croix.
Yeah.
Uh,
Drink my liquor.
so ahead of the season, like this was, I think, the Wednesday before we started on Friday. I was sitting there, I was looking at the cast. I knew the kind of the layout of the game, kind of the twist.
Yeah.
I had already gotten privy because I was helping with like financing money, like looking at stuff like that. I knew who was getting certain advantages, whatnot. So I literally did a play. I'm not going to show it because I'm going to like unveil this like every episode
Oh,
or
yeah.
every interview, I should say, of how I thought people would do on the format we had. And it's not knocking anyone. It was literally just based on the fact that I knew, for example, 6 of the 10 girls were going to be immune for that first round.
Yeah.
Someone was going to swap. So, how do you think I thought you did?
Oh gosh. Um, like is it like how far you think I got in the game? Is that how you're ranking this?
Yes.
I I think you for sure thought I got at least post merge.
Yes,
Um,
for sure.
I think you
So I can't
thought
I can't be privy to any of the future twists that are in the game, and maybe I'll unveil it. Let's just say this. I thought that you were gonna slide right past this first twist. The swapping, everything like that. I thought you were gonna be kind of I'll say this. I thought you were gonna be the Jenny where like your name didn't come up.
yeah. That's what
But
I actually kind of like felt that way the first round, which is why I think I was like so unaware that like, oh, people are like gonna get me out here. And that's why like second round felt like a major scramble to me all of a sudden.
so yeah, so where I actually had you placed was 11th place, which was at some point in the game, and that was what we'll say now, but I'll unveil a little bit more later.
Yeah.
So, but overall, Hannah, is there any last thoughts, comments you want to get out in this interview?
Oh man, I mean, I just think like you, Brandon, the whole team did such a nice job like pulling this together. Like I can't imagine the amount of work you guys have done. Like I was super anticipating this since I got cast last year, but more so than now, I just like want more people to experience what this is because it's amazing. Like going through that weekend, the people you meet, like how it affects you, the money that's raised for all these charities, hearing about what people are like playing for and how it impacts them. I mean, I'm really looking forward to more clips like what Bobby had in this last episode of like, because we didn't get to do that with each other during the game. And so to
Yeah.
do more of that, um, this is like truly an incredible experience. And you bet I'm going to set an application in for next season. So
That's right. Those applications are open for anyone. Let me make that clear. Go to the Live to Give page and apply. Hannah, I just want to thank you once again. You killed it. You're an amazing person. You're an awesome human being. And I was so honored to get to give you in this, let you play this game, watch what you do. And I think there's so many people out there, including Arrive, that are so grateful for you and who you are.
Oh,
So